Imagine being arrested for a crime you didn't commit, on property you weren't even near, by officers who had no witness, no evidence, and no legal right to detain you. That's exactly what happened to Terry Dickman. On April 22nd, 2025, Terry, a supervisor working on a utility project in Hillsboro, Texas, was falsely accused of illegal dumping after a city official bypassed dispatch protocols and manufactured a call that never came through 911 or the non-emergency line. What followed was a disturbing abuse of power, a falsified affidavit, an unlawful arrest, and excessive force used against the man with a pacemaker in his chest, simply for protecting his own health. This is the story the Hillsboro Police Department doesn't want you to hear. And today, we're exposing every lie, every policy violation, and every name involved in what may be one of the most blatant acts of official oppression caught on record. This is the case of Terry Dickman versus the Hillsboro Department of Public Safety. And the truth starts right now.
What's your name?
Terry Dickman.
And?
Audrey Dickman.
So Terry, what do you do for a living?
I actually manage infrastructure fiber installation for fibers.
Okay.
What I do is that I manage the infrastructure installation of fiber optics in the ground in subdivisions throughout towns or whatever. My job consists of is that I get the prints, the designs. I go out and white line the roads to where they need to install them, be it in the right of way, and I mark on the curbs or the streets, and I tell them how much right of way we have.
Okay, I have a question real quick. So how do you mark it? What do you use, or what do you?
Paint.
White paint. Okay.
I got a paint stick. If nobody knows what a paint stick is, it's a handle that you can put a paint can on the bottom of it and squeeze a trigger and mark the ground. That way you don't have to work your back too much bending
You
over.
don't have to bend it over, just squeeze it.
You just
Okay.
squeeze and mark it. And basically that's what I do. And then the locates are called in by the company who's actually working under us. So if I was TD, underground contractor, and I hired JB to come and do my bores, they're liable for calling the locates. I am liable for marking up the ground and show them how the infrastructure, where it goes. Via prints, via email, on the phone, text, or whatever. I send these prints to them and I tell them, okay, here's the design. We're on the north side of this road, say Jane Road, we're on the north side, and that's the side you stay on, and we have 5 foot right away from the curb.
Okay.
So
Now,
technically, you're a field coordinator.
Actually,
Correct.
right now, that's what they have me categorized as, a coordinator, but I've been doing more than coordinator. I'm actually the infrastructure management for the installation of Hillsboro.
okay, but you're not responsible for anything. You're just there to manage the crew to make sure that. Okay. So, how did you guys feel up before April 22nd? How did you guys feel about police officers in general?
I would have said leave them alone, let them do their job. They protect us.
Yeah.
Don't, even if you don't understand why they ask you to do something, we're taught that, they're the law and they know better than we do. But I don't feel that way anymore.
Now, do you feel that way with police officers in general, or just with the city of Hillsboro?
I would say in general.
Terry, in general, I would hope that I could give somebody a chance before I made a judgment. But yeah, I'll always have that thought in the back of my head after what happened to him. Whoa, what's going to happen? Before, I never would have questioned if a call came up that we weren't going to be taken care of, treated fairly. I mean,
But on April 22nd, 2025, that kind of changed for you guys.
Yeah, it did.
So
Am I going to be treated fairly? Am I going to have to stand up against an entire system that just tells you to put up and shut up?
now, Terry, on April 22nd, 2025, before you got the call to come out to the location where your crew was at with police officers, what were you doing?
I was actually on the other side of town. I think I was more on Corsicana Highway. Anyway, so I'm over there, and I'm not even 5 minutes from, if that.
Okay, what were you doing over there?
I was with other crews that I have there.
Okay.
So at that time, I had 3 crews going. One crew's got 4 bore rigs. That crew that was over on Old Brandon had 1 bore rig. And then I had another crew that had 2 bore rigs. And I was taking care of business like I always do. You know, I let these guys do their job. They know what they're doing. And I just go check up on them, make sure that they're staying in the right of way, they're following the marks on the ground. The marks on the ground are everything I see on a print. And that's when I got a call.
And what time roughly was that
That
phone
was
call?
early morning.
Okay, so like let's say 9:45ish. Okay.
It was around 9 something. It took me about 7 to 10 minutes to get over because I was going to finish up what I was doing.
What was the context of that phone call?
Oh, I got a phone call, and you know, if you're around a lot of foreigners from Mexico, they can't speak very good English. So, Daddy, when you come over here, I need you right away. I got the cops here. And I go, what? Yeah, I need you right away. I said, okay. So, I said, I'll be there in a little bit. Anyway, so when I get over there, I come up from 35, I actually come down Jane, and then I hit Old Brandon Road and went west. And I drove all the way past Country Club, and right after Country Club and Old Brandon, there's a creek crossing, and that's where they were working at. So I pulled off over there, and I noticed there's a police car on the south side of the road. And there was a black SUV on the south side of the road too. And it had the city of Hillsboro. So I get out, I walk over there, and I ask them, you know, what's going on, what's the problem? And I started getting questioned about the dirt that they were digging up.
You started questioning. You told me that there was I
got a phone call from the dispatch.
Okay.
Telling me that there was, that they're looking, there's 2 police officers, they're out on job site with my crew looking for me.
Okay.
So
did she tell you why they were looking for you?
No, she didn't tell me nothing. Basically, I guess one of them had responded with her while on the phone with me. Oh, that's okay. And I've got it recorded on the phone. It was a voicemail that she left and told me that that's okay. The police officers are in contact with you.
Okay.
I have obtained this call from Terry Dickman since it was recorded. Let's listen to it.
Hey, this is the Hillsboro Police Department. I have an officer out with some employees of yours. We were looking for make contact with you, but it looks like she already did. Sorry about that. Thank you.
So, as I drove up, the 2 police officers, Anderson, and I don't remember the other one's name.
I believe the other officer was
Garner. So they confronted me about the dirt that's on the side of the road. Well, they had shot a borer 3 days before that, and we had pipes sticking out of the ground. And when we came back to connect the pipe to the rest of the bore, the pipe was gone. And I asked the crew, they told me, I said, yeah, we're having to dig it up to find the pipe. And I go, what do you mean, the pipe's gone? And they go, yeah, it's not here on the surface. So they were digging it up to see if the pipe had drifted off in the hole, if there was a water vein underneath the creek bed, because they went like 8 foot and might have pulled the pipe out. So they were actually trying to find the pipe, and they couldn't find the pipe. And of course, they had a big ditch line dug. And I was questioned about the dirt on the side, what we were going to do with it. And I looked at the 2 police officers. I said, they're digging a hole to find the pipe that disappeared, that we put in the ground it's not there. I said, when they find the pipe, they're gonna cover it back up with the same dirt. Anyway, I started questioning about some area getting dirt dumped on it, and I said, well, I don't know what you're talking about. I said, I don't have nothing to do with anything like that.
Talking about when they're asking about the other dirt, they were asking about a different location?
Yeah, a different location,
Okay.
which I wasn't even a mile, not even a mile or so, probably a mile and a quarter away.
Now the location in question that they're having you go to question you about this dirt or this dumping that you complied with, you went over there with them to see what was it.
Yeah, I went
the intersection was technically
Old Brandon and Electra.
Old Brandon Road and Electra. Okay,
Yeah.
so they refer to this as like an addition to the Hummingbird Sewer Project.
I went over there, followed him over there, and then the code enforcement guy was there. And when I pulled up behind him, and then the police officers I pulled up on the passenger side.
Okay.
And so they both get out, and there's two black females, and they start questioning me about dirt. And I said, I don't know what you're talking about. And they kept assuming that I was the one dumping dirt over on this location. And I looked at him and I said, are you fucking serious? I drive an F-150 truck. What am I going to do, put a tarp in my fucking truck and a shovel?
This is the
shovel
dirt
this dirt
they're
off?
saying
I said, you
was
fucking
dumped.
stupid or what? This is stupid shit.
Right
I said,
there,
I
that
have
dark
no business
dirt,
dumping
right
dirt.
there.
I don't deal with the dirt. All I do is manage infrastructure. I said, as far as somebody dumping dirt, I have no freaking clue of what you're talking about. So they kept persisting, and the dirt contractor, Brad, I guess his name's what, Brad? Brad Williams shows up.
Okay, I believe he's with Altex Utilities.
Altex Utilities.
Okay.
And he pulled up behind the police officer. The code enforcement and both police officers went over there and started talking to him.
Mm-hmm.
So I called my boss. And I tell him what's going on. And he goes, are you kidding me? I go, no, I'm not, dude. I'm telling you what's going on. Anyway, so I was talking to him, and then they come back after talking with Brad for a bit and told me I needed to sign a ticket. And I said, a ticket for what? And they said, you need to sign a ticket for illegal dumping. I said, do you have any proof that I dumped here? I said, you haven't showed me nothing. But you're assuming I dumped here? I said, no, this is wrong.
They came back with a citation. Okay.
Yeah.
Dispatch called you. So I have some questions real quick.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to know, first off, how did they know your name? And two, how did they get your number to be able to call you when you showed up initially with the police officers?
I don't have a clue. The only thing I can think of is that I had probably a month and a half before that, Brad got my number because they were digging up on the north end of Electra, and they hit a pipe structure we had put in the ground. We shot a bore there, and the crew that shot the bore told them, hey, be careful when you dig. If you hit that pipe, let me know. And he was on Delmore.
Okay.
And Delmore and Electra. And they hit the pipe, never said nothing. So about a week or so later, we're pulling fiber, and we find that we can't get past that spot. So I laid the fiber out, and what they did, they dug, hit the pipe to put the water and sewer line in, and never did say nothing to us. So they covered that back up, and I got pictures of the pipe to where they hit it and put it in a V, and then we have a wire. It's an orange wrapped wire. It's a tracer wire that we trace this pipe with. So we could hook up a toner and locate this line. So when I called Brad about it and told him, I said, hey, will you mind coming and digging this up over here on Electra where y'all installed that water? He goes, for what? And I said, well, apparently you hit a pipe. The pipe we just installed in the ground. He goes, well, I didn't hit no pipe. I said, well, apparently something happened because we had mule tape in there. We could pull the mule tape back and forth, and now we can't do that. I said, could you come and dig this up so we can get this in? I'm pulling the fiber in, I have to get this done. He says, no, I can't be there. I said, he goes, we called in locates, which was wrong because if it called locates in, Rise is on the 811 services.
Okay, so they didn't get a call. Rise didn't get a call. You didn't get a call since you already had permits to work out their locate stuff. So they just basically hit something, didn't want to tell anybody with the city, and tried to half-ass fix it, cover it up, so that way nobody would ever know.
Half-ass fix nothing. I had to dig it up, so I got a crew over here about 2 days later, and we dug it up, and I got pictures of where they hit this pipe. They even put it in a V. They had black tape, and that tracer wire, they stretched it, and then they taped it up around the pipe and left the empty roll, what's left of that empty roll of black tape in the hole and covered it up. So when we expose it, we find all this. And so I sent pictures to Rise, to Nathan. And he's actually the guy we answer to for Rise. And I never heard nothing else about it. But I told him, I showed him, I said, this is the pipe hit. Anyway, so I guess that Brad, the city might have said something to him, because I know Nathan talked to the city about it.
Okay.
So I guess this deal with Brad, he might have found a way of putting me under the bus now.
Well, yeah, because it doesn't make sense because A, you didn't know about it. 2, you're being called about it. 3, you're complying and going over there.
Yeah.
And then at this point, they're trying to write you a citation for it. Now, before the citation was written, you told me that they basically told you to get rid of it by the end of the day.
Yes, they gave me an ultimatum.
Okay.
They told me, you can take this ticket and get rid of it by the end of the day. You can sign this ticket and get rid of it by the end of the day. I said, well, I'm not signing shit because I'm not admitting to any guilt because I didn't do nothing.
What you've just seen is only the beginning. This concludes part 1, where we exposed how a senior citizen, Terry Dickman, was cited and arrested over dirt. That's right, dirt. With no witnesses, no complainant, and no actual evidence of a crime. But in part 2, we're digging deeper. Why did the director of Public Works, Walter Garcia, bypass official dispatch and secretly contact law enforcement to spark a bogus investigation? Who gave the green light for police action without a 911 or non-emergency call? Why is Sergeant Anderson, an officer trained as an EMT, allowed to escalate situations against vulnerable citizens? And what role does Tony Kane, the city's director of public safety, play in all of this? Is this just negligence or a deliberate abuse of power? In part 2, we'll review the back channel communications, the pattern of retaliation, and the growing network of corruption that threatens the rights of Hillsboro residents. We're naming names, we're exposing connections, and we're asking the question that no one in City Hall wants to answer. Who really runs Hillsboro? And how deep does the cover-up go? Be sure to subscribe, turn on your notifications, and hit that like button so you don't miss out on part 2, coming soon. This is BZ Watchdog, and we're just getting started.